Welcome,
Right.
welcome.
We are back with another one. So today we got Mr. Jimmy, y'all. Jimmy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So, Jimmy, Gecko. Mostly right now I'm working with Tokay Geckos, but I also have Lichianis geckos, and then I have like some odds and ends, a little bit of everything. Been a lifelong animal lover. I've kept everything from like started with fish, had birds for a little bit, but now it's mostly geckos. But I'm into all
Yeah,
animals, and I wish I could keep
nice.
them all. Literally, I think I like most reptile people are, they just want to keep everything. I mean, I think innately we are like a bit of there's like a hoarder mentality to us,
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
or we just want to
So
run
how?
our own zoo. I think maybe like that was the thing. Right?
Yeah.
We had like a childhood dream of just like having our own zoo. I think that's what we're all working towards.
Oh yeah, definitely. So tell us a little bit about your story, right? How did you get into this? What made you decide? You know what? I want reptiles.
I can still remember as a kid. Literally, I mean, as I said, I loved animals, but I think I just went into this pet store. I saw this snake like just eating a mouse, and as a kid, I don't even know. Maybe this was like sixth grade. But that was the coolest thing, and ever since, like, I wanted a reptile, one of my own snake and stuff like that. Obviously, I couldn't get it. Parents were not exactly keen on having reptiles, so it was a little later until I really got into reptiles. It was like kept a little bit when I was in high school, but most my reptile keeping is when I was like right after college, and then
Okay.
had a little bit of my own money, and then a little older, and I can like I just kept almost. I mean, this is like more than 20 years of keeping reptiles, so I think at this point I've kept almost everything that I've kind of wanted. And then as I get older, I realize like there are definitely certain animals that are better suited for keeping. And then trying everything out, I think I'm more focused now. I'm trying to like focus on the things that I like. I realize that you can't keep everything, or you can't do it well, at least. So I'm trying to focus on like species that are, I guess, commercially viable. Like there's an interest for them. At the same time, stuff that I am interested in looking at as well. I mean, I've kept ball pythons before. Did bred ball pythons for a little bit. That tried it for a couple of years, and wasn't for me. I guess. I mean, no offense to all the ball python people that are still in the game, but they're
Right.
cool. They're very cool, but I think the geckos definitely have a lot more personality and stuff like that. There's like more, like there's much
A little bit more. Yeah, yeah. There's only so much you can do with a snake, right? Unless it's
right,
no. I mean,
especially
there
like
there are some snakes that are really intelligent, like reed ticks, and I mean,
yes,
even like cobras. Those are crazy intelligent, but you're
correct.
not gonna have them. It's like
Yeah,
that
I
thing's
mean,
probably smarter than me.
I would love to keep like venomous stuff, but obviously legally there's a lot of problems with that. And then I'm also kind of a clumsy person, so I would be the person that would get bit. So I've never know myself. So like those are things that I look and don't touch type of thing. So like not
Right?
too
Yeah.
crazy.
You know your limitations, so you're good.
Yes, comes with age.
So what do you know? What do you do for a full time job? I'm just
I
looking
am.
at your background and all your stuff. What do you do? Because you got a lot of geckos and having like I've kind of heard some like you do some like you work for like a school district or something or
Yeah. I work for the New York City Department of Education. I am a high school assistant principal.
how do you
Taught
have time for
chemistry for
this?
many years. So I was a chemistry teacher by background. So
Okay,
that's my, but for the past maybe 9 years, I've been an assistant principal at a
nice,
high school here in the city, here out in Queens,
nice.
small high school. But that's my full
So
time
how do you
job.
find time to do all this gecko stuff and do that at the same time?
Oh my goodness, it's
Because that's a
literally
demanding job.
very demanding job. So literally, from 7 to like 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm at school, and then right after school, here at the Gecko place. So
Dang.
some days, like if I'm, I mean, I have a little help, but like mostly it's just me, and then it's really, it literally like 2 to 3 hours goes by like in this Gecko place very easily, and then even then it's just like there's stuff that is still not done. So I have to like I can skip a day or here or two. I mean that's the good thing about reptiles. It doesn't have to be every day, but because it's such a large collection, I do try to come almost every day after school. And then weekends, like Saturday and Sunday mornings, I'm here all the time, just trying to catch up. It's just like, one day feeding, one day cleaning. And then, because I have lychees and tokays are two big groups, one day I'll focus on the tokays and then one day I'll focus on the lychees. But, I try to still. And at the same time, I still want to have like some kind of life outside of school and geckos. So like I try to like, I want to be able to hang out and go out to dinner and stuff like that, meet people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's busy. I mean, I think I'm stretched thin, but it is what it is.
Yeah, if you're happy, if it brings joy, then what's the matter, man? Geckos bring you fun, or if you didn't have the geckos and you were out, something else would fill that void, right? I mean, or you'd be looking for it.
Correct. So, I make it work. I sacrifice sleep. I'm pretty good on running on very little sleep, I think.
Tell me about that. But not.
Nice. Honestly, because like I said, I work for a school district as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but I'm like a subcontractor, so we oversee all the nutrition for our school district because we got like 24 schools. But yeah, it is because I'm salary as well, so you already know it's what. Don't matter if you think you're on or off, you're always on. So, and then trying to maintain a collection.
It's like, I mean, it's a misconception that, if you work for the schools, you're always on call all the time. Literally, when I'm not doing this, like, I'm sitting at a cafe trying to catch up on work, like off, like, the paperwork that can be done outside of the building.
Yeah. So we are here today to talk about tokays. That's one of my first loves was a tokay. I really wanted a tokay back in the day when I was younger. It was probably like my early 20s. And just got out the military, and I was like, man, I want a reptile again. And I was in the shop, saw a tokay. I was like, that thing is gorgeous. I want one. Convinced my wife at the time. I was like, hey, I want to get a gecko. She's like, all right, cool, no problem. Went up in there, and dude was like, you sure you want a tokay? I was like, yeah, why not? And he's like, hold on. He puts on a cut glove. I was like, why does he need a cut glove? Like, I know cut gloves because I work in kitchens, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, why does he have that? As soon as he put his hand in there, that gecko started screaming and went after his hand. I was like, probably not getting that right now. I'm good. So I ended up going to like the leopard gecko route. I did end up getting like a tokay like a few years back. Got one from Richie.
Very cool.
I was like, man, maybe I will try this. But then my buddy out here, he's a real big tokay person. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna let you go ahead and hold this because you got big plans. Like he got, like I said, he got albinos, caramel albinos. He got candy buttons. He got granites, pies, powder blues, all kinds of stuff. And he just put the things together to see what happens. It's like, you got your project, so I'm gonna let you go ahead and hold on to that. I mean, when I had her, she was fine. She never bit me. We had we had a healthy respect for each other. I didn't pick her up, but she would let me, like, you know what? If her tail was hanging out, she would let me move it out the way so I didn't close it on her. I always tongue fed her. Yeah. So she was really nice. She never darted off on me. So we had a good relationship. But like I said, just let my homeboy hold it so he can go ahead and work those projects.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think they're pretty amazing. I mean, I think so there's so many, I don't really handle them. I'm okay with them not being handleable. Keeping fish, that taught me, like, the concept of just look but don't touch. So I'm okay with that.
Yes.
Colors, definitely very big draw for me. I think the biggest draw is them having their family structure. So it's so cool to open like I have a breeding pair, they're set up, and then they lay eggs, and eventually one day you'll see these little babies just running around. And they literally will hang out by their parent. And if you can leave them in for a really long time so that, in a clutch, in a season, tokays lay, 6 to 8 to possibly 10 eggs. So you'll have the babies hatch at different times. Some of them could hatch, in early spring, and then the last one will hatch like late summer. Sometimes, if they're feeding well, the size differences is huge, but they all live together in that cage. It's pretty amazing, actually. And then you can actually, and I've done this before, where you take a baby out, whatever, even for a few hours and stuff, and you put it back. I mean, the parents know that that's their baby. They're not going to attack it or anything like that. So
super cool, man.
Very like cool to see.
Oh yeah. Now, question: is there any other kind of gecko that does that, or is it just like the tokays that do that?
I don't know if all of the gecko species. So the green eye does it. So I have a pair of green eye.
Okay.
Does the same thing. And then the white line geckos, the skunk geckos.
Okay. Yeah.
They do the same thing. They raise their babies. Like they form these big family structures. And the parents just know. I mean, some of these babies are born so small. Like, the parents can definitely distinguish their own babies.
Nice. Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How long?
You see it? How long? Okay, so I've been doing it since 2020. I started during the pandemic. It was when I really got.
I think that's when I really started noticing. Yeah, 2020 is when I really started noticing. I was like, "Who is this dude?" And he's coming out some fire.
I had to get it all myself. That's the thing. In 2020, before then, I was doing leeches, so that was my big thing. Mm-hmm. By then, it was maybe like 2 or 3 years into leeches. I just started breeding some leeches. But during lockdown, during the pandemic, everybody's on the internet, and you're just like, oh, I don't know what else to look at. And then you see people with some tokays, seeing them. There were a couple people here in the U.S. Like none of the morphs that are here, like they've been around many years pre-pandemic. I remember going to, Daytona. That reptiles I haven't been to like probably in 10 years. But I remember the last one I went to. I think Kevin McCurley from Nerd had he was starting to show some things besides the ball pythons, and he had a huge display, and he was really trying to push the tokays. And I saw like powder blues, and whatever, all the different morphs. But anyways, during the pandemic, I was looking at these pictures on Facebook and Instagram, and saw these people with these like pieds were like, oh, that's so cool, like this the white and black pattern on a gecko, and I was just like, oh, how do I get one? And then it was like almost impossible. I mean, it was impossible to find in the USA. Like nobody would sell it to me. Like it's not like they would. It's not like I could find one with like even like a high price tag. It wasn't available at the time. So then, that's how
Have you imported?
I had to import. I basically had to learn how to import myself, because that was the only way. The only people that were really going to talk to me were the people in Indo. Like I got lucky, I made internet friends on Facebook. It worked out,
Cool though, man. That's an experience. That's the skill set it's really correct. A skill set, man. That's
so as a result, I know how to import. I've done one export. Exporting is definitely not for me. It takes a lot of work, and unless somebody is really buying a whole bunch of animals, it's really just not. It's a lot of headache. And it really depends on the importing country's laws and whatever. Like here, for me to bring in, it's me just basically having somebody that I trust over in Indonesia or whatever. I mean, I've only imported from Indonesia, but like theoretically, I can do from any country. And I have a really good customs agent, broker, whatever that I work with. And it's really, it's a lot of paperwork, but my guy takes care of almost everything. And if your paperwork's legit and everything like that, it goes fairly smoothly. I mean, yeah, that's it. And then there's my Indo person has somebody that they work with that takes care of all the paperwork to make sure it's all legit. I mean, it's a lot of paperwork. That's essentially what it is. And it's getting all the documents in order. And as I said, the hardest part is finding like good people. I have a good customs broker. He looks out for me. He takes care of me. And then my guy in Indo so far has always done right by me.
It's awesome. How long does it typically take when you get an animal sent from Indonesia over here?
So the whole process, like my very first shipment, it was literally I was communicating with this guy maybe during that summer of 2020. I was just like, oh, really like, hey, sell me that pied. It was really, he had a pied Tokay. I wanted it. We agreed on it. Then we bought some, I ended up buying it. Then, we figured out like he had more animals. And then I was like, oh, you want this? Anyways, it takes like sometimes 6 to 8 months before we decide, hey, we have enough animals. Let's get the shipment on the go. I mean, he has to apply for it. So Tokays are CITES, I think they're CITES 2 animals. So he does have to apply for paperwork.
Okay.
So that they can be exported. So once he gets that paperwork, usually it moves pretty quickly. Literally, his agent would, once all the paperwork is cleared, we agreed on the animals, It's like they book a flight for this shipment. And then obviously he has to bring it over in Indo. The wildlife people inspect, make sure that whatever's in the box is in the box. It comes over here, and literally, like, you book a flight, and coming from Indonesia, these animals are on a plane or traveling in transit for usually about 2 days. Usually depending on what airline they use, there are very few direct flights coming straight from Indo into the USA. So usually they, past couple times they've stopped in like Dubai, and then from Dubai they fly into the US.
And terrible time though, 2 days. I mean, not for nothing. Probably one of the most hardy tropical geckos.
Correct. It works well. So Tokay's extremely hardy.
Troopers.
So it's really, if they're in good condition, and so far my guy's been really good. Like the animals I've been getting, like, I know I'm paying a lot more than what some of these bigger wholesalers are getting for, but like he's sending me individual pictures of the animals. Like, and sometimes because he, from the time they've collected or wherever he's getting it from, like he's holding them sometimes for almost a year. So like literally I'm getting like almost like long-term captive animals. So for me, I'm willing to pay a little bit more. Yeah. Like they're not coming off like skin. I have gotten some that were, skin and bones, but like it's not like, if they didn't make it, he would replace them for me the next time or something like that. So it's been good. And I've definitely turned around some animals that were definitely skin and bones.
That's good though. Yeah, that's good that you got a good partner like that. That looks out for you like that.
Well, now, did you ever have a lot more Tokays? Huh?
Yeah. Did you ever have to go to Indo?
I have not gone to Indo. I would like to go to Indo. I enjoy traveling too, so that's definitely on my list. Although I like my kind of travels. I guess I'm a little bit more like, I like the comfortable. Like, I don't know if I can go into the. I like to relax, and I like the comforts of, regular amenities and like that stuff.
You don't want to be in the jungle. Right?
I don't know about the. I like to think I can. I would like to try it. The most I don't know. I was in Thailand like last year, and that was fine. But like there, you can see the water monitors in their version of their regular park. Their water monitors are everywhere, and their geckos like all over the place. So like you don't actually have to go into the jungle to see some animals in some places.
Yeah.
Just like in Florida.
You're right.
In Florida, when I was in Miami, like there were all the red-headed gammas just running around the street everywhere. So like I saw like a spiny tail. I was either a spiny tail iguana or it might have been a rhino iguana. Like that was in a parking lot. So they're like things all over the place.
Because remember, you remember when Phil showed us? We did an interview with Phil, and literally he's like, "Hold on, you guys!" Turned his laptop around and showed us a big old, it was like a 3-foot iguana just chilling in his backyard. I was like, man,
they're all over the place. Literally, I was in the Miami Zoo, and it was a giraffe exhibit. But in the exhibit, there was they're not part of the exhibit. The huge green iguanas just walking through the where the giraffes were.
Do they have monkeys down there? There's like some monkeys that live over there.
I think if I go deeper, like I was in the actual city, like downtown, so like I think if you go deeper, you'll see things like monkeys. I didn't even see any parrots or anything like that. And I know that they're all there.
North America's jungle, man. It's an amazing place, man.
Yeah. So I have to go back. I was only there for like a weekend this year, so I have to go back.
What did you go to Thailand for, if you don't mind me asking? Were you out there for anything to do with the lizards, or were you just vacationing?
It was just on my, I always wanted to Thailand, and then I just
got a girlfriend.
Yeah, like I just go. I follow the school schedules, right? So the one benefit of having the school schedules, there are like these random built-in breaks. So it's a spring break every year, right? So every April I try to go somewhere.
What part of Thailand did you go to?
I just went to Bangkok, and I went to, I forgot the name of the town.
I've been there.
That was a little bit, like maybe 3 or 4 hours outside of Bangkok. I went to some elephant sanctuary, so like just go play with the elephants a little bit.
It's awesome.
Because I know I've been to Pattaya, Thailand, and then I've been to Phuket, Thailand.
Oh, Phuket was on my list. That's my next.
Yeah. Because we went to this one spot where remember that movie called The Beach?
Yeah.
That's so we went snorkeling over there, chilling on the beach and everything like that. Like I said, you saw all that crazy animals, all the fish and everything. It was nice. It was dope.
No, and literally at the park in the middle, like it's like, and Bangkok is like any big city, around the world, like skyscrapers everywhere, and then they have this regular park, and these water monitors were huge, like they were like bigger than a lot of dogs that I see, and they were just like all over the place. I saw babies running up the trees, like it's like they're squirrels or something, It's like there's just so many, pretty amazing. I mean, I have to say, like it's just like these dope. Large,
How were the people? Were the people friendly? Did you find
very friendly, very friendly, very friendly? A lot more congested than I thought it would be. So definitely. Very much like here in Manhattan or any other big city, I find any like, super
from out there.
Yeah, but like it was super. I was like surprised. Like even taking an Uber like from one place to another, it's like it's not that far, but like I'm just like this is taking a lot longer. And then, but it's so hot too, so like it's hard to just like. So when I'm in Europe, it's okay. I'm just gonna like even like if it's like half an hour, 45 minutes, I'll just walk it because it's not like that hot. But like in Thailand, it's like really hot and steamy, so it becomes really. Yeah. So you have nothing. You have to like either take the metro or get into an Uber. But it was people were very nice. I mean, Thailand has become so, I think, super touristy. Also, I think a lot of people, they're just. I mean, it's like set up to welcome people from other places.
Oh yeah, stay away from bars.
Tourism.
Yep, 100%. It is very much a it's. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing I've realized going around a lot of the cities around the world. It's a lot smaller. Like there's a lot of similarities between the different cities.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, so with these tokays, right? So what does their natural habitat actually look like? And then what are you doing in your enclosures to kind of mimic all that?
All right, natural habitat. So they come from all over Southeast Asia. So I think they're in Thailand, they're in Indo, they're in like Vietnam. So there's different localities. Although most of the ones I've been told that the morphs are all really from the Indo populations.
Oh, okay.
I think they're invasive here in the U.S. So there's Florida tokays. Actually, I believe a lot of times, a lot of the ones from the Florida wholesalers are actually just Florida wild caught Tokay geckos. But in terms of the morphs, most of the morphs they still have to come from Indo. That's where most of the morphs are coming from. Mm. There is like a tropical gecko, but I think they do adapt very well to urban life. So they'll live in buildings and stuff like that. I think everybody has told me stories of like, working in a pet shop, and I have it here too. Like there's at least 2 or 3 running around in this gecko facility. Like I just can't catch them. There's so many cages, and I have to. I just let it, once they're out, it's really hard to find. So they're just out and about. So they're fine here. They'll eat the loose crickets. I mean,
perfect
crickets. Yeah. I mean, sometimes I find them. When I catch them, they're pretty fat actually.
Yeah. Nice. So I actually lost my powder blue one. Well, no, my ex-girlfriend lost my powder blue one, right? I was what was I doing? Oh, I was in another state. I was going to see my son's 8th grade graduation, and literally the day before I'm about to fly back, she calls me crying, saying, "I'm so sorry, I messed up." I'm like, "What happened?" He's like, "Well, I came over to turn on all the lights, and I saw the tokay out, and I was just gonna go feed it." I was like, "But it's not Friday. It's Saturday. Why are you feeding them on Saturday?" And then she tried to, and that's gone.
Well, that's the thing. That's like, it's one of those things because that they're gonna bite too. So like if you hesitate, it's really like it's either they're gonna bite you or they're gonna run away.
Yeah,
that's really like if you're trying to get them, it's like it's really you sometimes just have to like be brave and then just go in and just like you got to hold on to them even if they're biting you because otherwise definitely. If they let go, they're gonna run. And then if you have lots of cages like I do over here, like once they hit behind the thing, it's just like it's such an effort to move all the cages. I mean, right now I have things. I put a lot of things on wheels now, whatever I can, so like it's easier to like kind of move. But yeah, going back to like in terms of caring for them, or because they come from like a tropical environment, I do have to keep it warm. So I basically heat up the room or their side of the room. So this gecko facility is like a very long and narrow room. Half of it is tokays, and then the other half have the New Caledonian, like mostly lychees, and have a couple of like cresteds and chihuahuas and stuff like that. But keep it warm, keep an ambient of around like 80 to 82. I do have lights on the breeding pairs, so I put UVB for the breeding pairs. I found that is actually a key thing. I was losing a lot of females when I was breeding, when I didn't use anything, but when I use just regular lighting or no lighting, they'll be fine. So you can raise a Tokay without any special lights. But in terms of breeding, I think the females absolutely need the UV. And I don't actually see them bask. I think they only need a little bit, but just the access of just a little bit of UV, a little bit every day, makes a huge difference in terms of them being well. Because the hard-shelled eggs, they definitely, the female's calcium, once they crash, it's like really hard to bring that kind of animal, that back from that state. So I just keep, the lights come on. So when the lights come on with the UV lights and the regular plant lights that I have, that just provide some ambient light for them, I think in the daytime, it might even go up to like 95 degrees in the hot spot. So they have access to it. And at nighttime, the heat goes off and it goes down to, in the summertime, it probably stays close to like 78, 80 degrees even without any supplemental heating, just because it just stays, it gets warm and muggy here in New York too, sometimes when there's a heat wave and stuff like that. In the winter, it might go down to like the low 70s and stuff like that, because it's a balance too. I do have like a barrier kind of separating the room, but like the lychees, they don't want it too hot either. So I kind of like, and they're okay getting cold in the winter too. And I actually found that you do need that little cold spell to like kind of spark breeding and stuff like that, even for the lychees. If it's like warm all year round, they'll live, but I don't think they breed as well.
Okay, nice. So, we were talking about that whole family dynamic, right? Have you ever had like Tokays that were kind of bonded together, not like get along, and then you got to kind of separate them out, and put you with another pair or whatever?
Yeah. Same thing. I find that they are actually a little bit like lychees, like they do. Not every pair will get along. I mean, I have like some that will tolerate each other and can live together. And then I've had cases where like, a large male will just really, like, I had one, one of my first pairs of pies that I put together, like these high white pies, like, the female was really fat and, in good body weight. I was like, oh, they look, similar, whatever. The male, like, they got into a fight and, he broke her jaw. Oof. And, and then it got infected and everything, and so I ended up losing her. But like they not all of them get along, and then I still have pairs like they'll live together, but they won't produce anything. And I've actually heard a theory, like sometimes with the wild caught ones, like they are like long-term bonded, and some of these animals were bonded prior.
And then
that
makes sense.
They are like, some of them, it's just like they're so devoted to whatever mate that they had before. Like now you can try to repair them with some random female, and it doesn't work. Like I remember that was one theory of why some pairs just never produce.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they are very intelligent animals, so like, it wouldn't. Same thing with the lychees, right? Like we all know that. Like I've had pairs that they'll produce, and then after like a year or two, then they don't get along anymore. So that definitely happens. I'm not quite sure how. My longest Tokay, the oldest Tokay I have is maybe like 10 years old, but I don't know the actual like how long like the full life expectancy in captivity is. I'm assuming it has to be like 20.
It has to be about 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
No, if you're keeping them right. Yeah, if you're keeping them right. Yeah, that's the biggest part right there. Just like a leash.
I definitely do know that they do slow down in production. The females slow down in production. So my oldest pair, like I've had them for a couple of years, and then the female definitely this year has, she was consistently cranking out like 6 to 8 eggs every season for a couple of years, but this year like it's really like slowing down. So I think there's like a window of like peak egg production for females.
For your breeders, what size setup are you doing?
So mostly the size of like an 18-24 Exoterra would be what I do for a pair. Definitely, like if you have room, definitely go bigger if possible. But like I do usually either that, or I sometimes have 20-inch cubes. So most of my cages are PVC cages. They're like made from PM herps. So they're like this hard one piece, plastic cage. I think they work really well. And then I have individuals in converted fish tanks, or the equivalent of like maybe like a, depending on what size, a 12 by 12 by 18 or 18 by 18, like an 18-inch cube type enclosure. So and I rotate them through. But a pair is usually like an 18 by 18 by 24, or like a at least
Are
a
you
20.
Keeping all the babies with the parents until you sell them?
So what I do is, if I'm gonna post, if they're big enough to post, or I want to make a post about it, I pull them from their parents, and then when they're big enough, I pull them, and then I keep them separately. Otherwise, if I'm not planning to sell them or whatever, I just leave them with the parents. So when they're ready to be sold, or otherwise it's gonna be hard for me, like, because everybody wants like an individual picture,
Oh yeah.
And most of the time, like, these things kind of like when they're babies, they all look more or less the same. Like an individual picture is just like, okay. But like, in order for me to have an individual picture, I have to pull them from the parents' cage. By the time that I think that they're big enough, once I pull them, I just keep them separate. So like, it's easier for me to keep track. Hey, this is the one that this buyer wanted, so I can give them this exact one. Otherwise, if I throw it back into the parent cage and there's like 3 or 4 other ones in there, it's gonna be hard for me to like know that this is the one that, I don't want somebody to say to me, well, that's not the one that you sent the picture of.
How do you house them when you pull them out? Once you take them out and decide you're going to sell them, how would you house those
I would keep them in. So I also have a bunch of converted 10-gallon like the upright, and I just do the the, what is it? There's like the terrarium cover. It's like a plastic cage door, so it's sealed. So I do like, I have 5.5-gallon versions of that, and then I have 10-gallon versions of that. So I have a whole bunch of those tanks, and I buy a whole bunch from Petco every time they have that, 50% off the tanks. So like it's, I mean, that to me is, it's a lot cheaper than buying Exoterras, because I can get like those tanks for like
that stuff is expensive.
like $15 for a fish tank, and then I pay like another $25 for a thing. It comes out like, when I'm buying that many, because you keep them individually. You can keep similar sized Tokays together when they're small, and sometimes you can keep groups of females together, even up to adult size. The only thing is, when you're keeping them together, you really do have to check on them, because one of them could end up being like a bully. One of them might hog all the food. So it really depends on the group. I've had it works. When I'm short in space, sometimes I do keep a whole bunch of females together, until I can separate them out and have more cage space. But 2 males will definitely fight, separate things. So, and babies, if they're similar size, you can keep them together. Again, just have to monitor and check that everybody's eating. Now, sometimes one might get bullied and not eat as much, and then so you get a little skitty. Then you separate them. But the best thing is to house them individually and then in pairs when they're ready to breed.
Okay. I was to say, because so you don't do any kind of trios or anything like that. I've heard some nightmare stories, but
I have heard kind of success. I know people have tried trios, like keeping it in a big cage and offer multiple hiding spaces. I personally has not been very good with it. And my buddy, who also has a large amount of Tokays, he says that he has not had a lot of success in trios. So right now it's just pairs. Pairs are solo.
Yeah, because I've always heard that, like, if you try to put a trio together, one of those females, if that other female had eggs, she tries to go after those eggs.
Yeah, I definitely have heard that. Like, yeah, they'll destroy the eggs, or like they're not gonna. Yeah. One female might not tolerate the babies of the other female, so like then there's issues with that. The females might end up fighting with each other because of that. So I think the best way of success is to do pairs. I know that some people have had success where they, rotate a male, like put a male with one female for a period of time, get her going, separate, then put a male with another female, almost like how they do like with, I guess Tokay Gecko people do that a lot. I think that's also varying success too, because as I said before, do think that they do bond. So that element, it's not quite, but I just learned this, was it this year or last year? Like, there's some lychee breeders that do that too, and they have managed to get them to produce.
Nice. I didn't know about that.
So, being you said 2 males will fight, how does it work when a father has a male juvenile in the cage? Will he know that it's his son, or will a certain time come when he tries to run him off, or how does that work?
I think at a certain point, I've never kept them that much, where they're like an adult, like two, even like an adult son of a father in the same cage. So by the time they're like, bigger, like once I know that they're eating well and they're growing, like this is really around like maybe the 2-month mark, I pull them from the parents. I actually don't like leaving it where there's a huge size difference between, the first baby that hatches in the season and the last baby, because then inevitably the larger baby is going to eat more. And sometimes the small ones, like I'm just like, oh, they're so much smaller by the time when they first hatch, that I'm just like, oh, how are they going to compete? Because, I just want to make sure that babies are eating. Yeah. But I will say, I do think that leaving babies with the parents, they grow faster, because I have also artificially incubated eggs, for whatever reason, right? The egg becomes unstuck from whatever they lay the eggs, or the female dies or whatever, and I still have the eggs, and there's, I have incubated eggs myself and then hatch them. Those babies they don't grow as fast, actually. They'll eat and everything. They eventually do grow, but like, I mean, the babies that I leave the parents, they're sometimes like double the size of like the babies that I hatched myself. So I think whether, I don't know if they're picking up like,
I think it's more of a confidence thing right there with them, right?
It could be.
It's just, just like they're confident because they know they got their parents that's going to protect them, so they could do whatever they want. Besides, and those ones that are on their own, they're probably just scared as all hell. Like, man, I don't know what to do. Should I even try to eat this thing? Should I go hide in this corner? Something like that,
Yeah, maybe they're learning from the parents what, like, I also think that they might be eating a little bit of their parents, like their poop and stuff like that, or like that gets into their gut, like almost like the concept of probiotics and stuff like that. And I think that they have a healthier digestive system, or whatever. That is something that I have noticed. I think babies that stay with their parents do tend to be, they grow a little faster and get a little bit more robust. Mm-hmm. I mean, eventually, they'll be fine. Eventually I think they all reach the same thing, but I think initially there is a big difference I've noticed with babies that are raised by parents versus babies that I've raised myself.
Interesting. So I got a question. Yeah. You may have the answer, you may not, but my first gecko as a child too was, back in the 80s, my first gecko in the 80s was a Tokay. Oh. What's the history of them in the hobby? Do you know, like, when did they come into the hobby? How? When?
I think they've been around like forever. As a kid, we had local pet stores. We had a big chain of pet stores called Petland Discounts here in New York. And every one of them had Tokay Geckos. They were $10 a gecko. $10 a gecko, $9.99. I remember seeing them, and they were large. So they have been available for a very long time. And even when I'm doing reptile shows, some of the some of the older people that come in by, there's like, oh. They're like, they've never seen the morphs, but then they're like, oh my goodness, these used to be, like every pet store had them. So I think they've been around for a long time. So like, 20 years ago, I'm assuming even longer before, they came in, because before CITES, I'm sure they were just imported by, easily, like they were just catching them and just, bringing them over. I mean, from my, exporters from Indo, the people, like, sometimes they're sending me pictures and videos of, like, literally some of these trappers are trapping like thousands of geckos every day. They're like in cages, like packed with lots of, like, just normals, right? Because I think they're hunted for the food trade and whatever, because they eat them over there too. So like they just pull out the special ones for the individual, like, because they know that people here will pay money for it. But like, they are caught, and so there's large numbers of them. I think the whole point of the CITES thing was to regulate this to some extent, so that's not like soap, but like they are catching them over there. And I know the people in Florida. I've never. The next time I go to Miami, I definitely want to go try to catch a Florida wild caught Tokay. But like, these people here in Florida seem to be catching a whole bunch also. So I think that they're all over.
Well, at least they're not eating them, right? No.
But they are like,
also in Indo, they're doing them for medicinal purposes.
Medicinal purposes,
right?
yeah.
They say all kinds of, like, this gecko can do this for you, and it can heal you. It can make you do this. It's like, okay, chill out on that.
I mean, I've never eaten one, but
No, I haven't got I've had gator. That's probably about most reptilian I probably will try. But I was gonna ask you, since you do import, do you import a lot or just every once in a while?
I'm doing like maybe 2-3 shipments a year, because literally each of them is like financially it's a huge investment, and also like sometimes like they want to send like lots of tokays, right? This last shipment that I got, I think was almost 100 Tokay Geckos, but it's between me and my buddy. I can't remember how many, but it was like between me and my buddy, and then we split the geckos. But like even housing 50 geckos that have to be like more or less housed individually because they're adults, but what I'm getting is just like that's a lot of cages.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's a lot to like set up, make sure that they're all healthy. It's still pretty much like a niche market, so like it's not like they're flying off the shelves type of thing. These are things that for the most part, like I always think of like I bring them in because there's something in the shipment that I want to keep myself, and then how I approach it is like I bring in some other things, and sometimes I bring in like non-Tokay animals that I know that I can move quickly to kind of cover some of the costs. So like I don't, it's not totally money out of the bank type of thing. But like 2 to 3 times a year, I bring a shipment. The last one I brought in, it was like back in July. That was my shipment of, I was working on that shipment. So my last shipment before that was in October of last year. So like between October and July was like when I was like getting this shipment ready. So like took 6 months literally, or more than 6 months to get that going. And from, me deciding, hey, let's work on this next shipment. And then on the ground, like it was like at the end of July when I got a whole bunch of animals.
Yeah. And so since you're doing you're getting all these wild caughts in, right? What is do you have like a quarantine protocol for all of them, or do you have a vet to check them if you need to?
If I need to, I do have a good reptile vet that I work with. He's actually out in Long Island, so he's seen a lot of my different animals. He loves it when I come because, I mean, not so much for me because I'm always coming in the problem, but he loves the fact that I bring him like all these different animals. Like he mostly sees dogs, cats, and birds. Like he does treat exotics, but like I bring him like cool snakes and stuff. Like he loves like every time I bring in like one of my animals. Bringing them in, I keep initially when they first come in, I try to keep all the animals in my parents' house, or so like it's totally separate. I don't want to really mix. Like for me, especially like snakes is just like I'm really anal about. Like for me it's more like not even so much like disease, or like I don't want snake mites, because if I get mites, like I have some snakes here in the gecko place, not a lot, but like my main snake collection is at my parents' house, because if I have like mites here, like I'll never be able to really get rid of them, because anything that I use, like most of my leechy cases are bioactive, like they're isopads and springtail, like that's all. I can't have any of that type of so usually keep it in my parents' house, so I know that they're like good to go and stuff like that. And then things that I know that are, healthy enough, like that they don't look like. For me, it's like when you first get these tokays, it's not so much like I don't treat every one of them just like when they just come off the plane type of thing. Some of them are like in such good condition, like you don't really need to do anything. I only really treat when I know that this animal has been here for a while. Looks like it's losing weight and not putting on weight, even though I know that it's eating. Then that there's something, and then you do the whole run of like the panicure and flagell.
Nice.
And they're pretty easy to just get the right dosage. You follow the dosage that's on, and I treat myself like I can't bring in like 100 geckos to the vet, and it's just not cost effective like that. So I do have the medication. And it's just do the math. You weigh the gecko, and it's easy to administer oral medication to tokays, because anytime you grab them, their mouth is open. It's a little syringe, and you just pop it in, and then and it's good.
There you go.
So it's worked well for me. Honestly, like 50% of the animals that I get, like I don't even have to do anything. After like 3 months, you can see that they're clearly gaining weight. and doing well, eating, digesting, and then, just market them and then get them going. Once I know that they're like, eating. And even the ones that like, you can tell, like, even if they come in really skinny, you can tell like, oh, they're eating, it's starting to fill in. And eventually, after a period of time, they will all fill in if they're eating well and their gut is good, And then you just monitor to make sure that stays on top. And, sometimes you might have to do another round of treatment if they're consistently just staying skinny. They're alive, but they're just so skinny. So that's you can have a fecal done to make sure. But I just do a round of treatment, usually 2 or 3 times, 2 or 3 treatments, and then they're good to go.
Okay, cool.
So, what's your feeding rotation look like? What do you do as far as feeding your Tokays?
Tokays, I do for the younger ones, they're crickets mostly. The older ones I have that have been here for a while, they will eat out of a cup. Like I have I use the 4-inch PVC couplers, and I put like a plastic deli cup, and I put in usually super worms. For me, that is, if you want to put on weight on a Tokay, you can get them to eat super worms, they will put on the weight very easily.
Really?
100%. Like some of them, I don't even know how they notice. It's like they hear. Some of them are so used to it. I put a couple of super worms into the cup. It's like they hear the rattling of the worms in the plastic, and they just come out, and they're like they're ready to grab them. I do have like a small dubia colony. I'm just like kind of lazy in maintaining that too, because it does take work. And then you have to sort out the roaches and stuff like that. Not all of them will eat it. Crickets is the surefire thing. I order about like 4,000 crickets every week to go through and feed all the Tokay. So with babies, obviously you need the movement of the crickets. They really are drawn to that. So it's mostly crickets. I try to feed maybe 2 to 3 times a week, And then the breeding pairs, as I said, I do give them the super worms. It really helps with the putting the weight back on the females, because the egg thing is very taxing. And then, if they have babies also, I'll throw in crickets as well, because I know the babies have to eat the crickets. But it's, 2 to 3 times a week. I just feed them. Those are the 2 main items. It's really, gut-loaded crickets and gut-loaded super worms are my 2 go-tos. And then when I can, I'll pull some roaches, put them in there too.
Are you using any supplements?
Okay. Like every other time, I just dust. What I have, just use the Repashy, just dust them like that. Some of my Tokays will actually, sometimes if I'm, after a show, like I'll just, I'll buy some hornworms, and then some of my larger ones will, like, they go crazy for the hornworms. You see, grab them, fling it, and the juices come out and everything like that. So it's a good, it's a good way to get, if you can get them to like eat worms. They definitely, I don't think crickets are like super, super nutritious, but the movement definitely draws them.
So let me ask you something, because are the genetics, is that relatively new in the hobby for Tokays?
So the big thing, so I think the genetics is like the biggest, I don't know if it's like, it's a big draw. The morphs are obviously very stunning, but a lot of genetics were not known. None of them, for most of the morphs have been around since, like the early 2000, like the early 2000s and stuff like that. As I said before, what got me into it was like the pied and the granite. Super like cool to look at, but to be honest, it's not something that's easy to produce. It really is like a lot of people, the pieds are coming in. You breed 2 pieds together, the babies will come out normal, and it would just,
and it takes a few years, right?
Well, some of them never turn.
Oh,
that's the thing.
Man.
You're just raising a whole bunch of normals, right? And then eventually, as I said before, you have these babies. They're great, right? But eventually, you do have to separate them, and they can't live with their parents forever. And then you're stuck with all these. They have 8 babies, and before you know, you need 8 different cages, and some of them might turn, some of them might not turn. I mean, Denise Whitney from Lucky Foot, I think that's her company name.
Yeah.
She has a line that she's been working with for a long time. Her babies almost always turn. Really? I don't know the pairing that she used, but her babies, after 2 or 3, I think even before that, I think almost every one of them has turned. A lot of them have turned pied. So, but the granite and the pied are, pied and calico are really the same thing. And there's really, I think there is a separate morph that's a leucistic morph, but what we mostly see in the hobby as like an all white gecko with black eyes is actually just an extreme pied. Because what happens is these geckos start turning by, they'll be normal, and then they'll go become like granite, where the red spots might become black or darker. Then eventually you'll see some white, usually it's on the head, you'll see some like, it's going to start lighting up, and then you'll see some white come through. And then eventually the whole head is going to be white. Some of them will continually progress where the white becomes the whole body, and then and some of them, the eye color does change. Actually, the eyes turn like a black color. But anyways, it really is that whole mutation is all related, and it's like a progressive trait. We just don't know exactly what pairing will will result in it changing. I bought a group of 5 animals for my buddy, who I can't remember if he bred it a pied to a granite or it was 2 pied. The best you can say that they're het for pied, but it's not a simple recessive trait. Some people have gotten animals that turn 2 generations down. You did breed the babies together and they do turn, but like it's not like genetics. It's not like, I can say it's a simple recessive or it's a codominant or stuff like that. So pieds and granites, not 100% sure how it works. We just know that some of the babies will eventually turn to pied. So really, because they're all related. So you can breed a pied to a granite. It's going to give you, potentially the same thing. But the other morphs there are proven morphs that follow like the regular Mendelian genetics, like green codominant or reduced pattern it's a codominant, so it just works like the same thing as a pastel ball python. Half the babies will be that reduced pattern. And then you have patternless. Patternless includes olive, blue-headed greens, powder blue. They're all the same. Really, genetically, it's just a patternless animals. I know everybody wants the powder blue, but powder blue is just really like a super nice example of a patternless, where the whole body is kind of a blue color. But they can come out all types, because you can have the blue-headed green is really, the head is blue, but the rest of the body is more like a green color. And then, you could have olive, where they kind of like this, they more or less stay like a greenish color. Basically, all it means is the absence of those red dots.
Yeah.
And so that's a simple recessive morph. So they're all, you could breed a so-called powder blue to a blue-headed green. You'll get some babies that will be nicer than others, and then you just hold them back and see which ones are going to be, you obviously, if you breed 2 powder blues, you're more likely to get like powder blue like animals. They're higher quality patternless. So that's a simple recessive. There's super red. Super red so far has been a codominant trait, half the baby, type of thing. Now there are paradox and candy, the candy button or candy morph. A lot of debate, but it is heritable. It is proven. It should be simple recessive, but I've been told that there might be 2 separate lines of the candies. One might be codominant and one might be simple recessive. I mean, there are a lot of, it's hard because they have similar traits. There's, in Korea, they're actually a lot more advanced. There's a bunch of breeders in Korea that have been doing a lot of work with Tokays.
Crazy.
Yes.
Damn, I didn't even know that.
And they've actually proven a lot of the mutations over there. Okay. They're the first to produce a lot of them. So we know that some, but basically candy, for the most part, we have my buddy Josh, my partner, usually when we import, like he's proven simple recessive. You breed 2 candy buttons and you'll get candies. So that's kind of, and paradox I've bred here, I believe that they're simple recessive. Right now I've only, I do know that they're simple. It has to be simple recessive, I think, because I've done, I bred paradox to paradox. I get obviously all visuals. If I just use only one visual parent, I get like, I guess I would get a het. They're normal looking for the most part. But, but it's also hard. So paradox is sometimes hard to see in a baby, because sometimes depending on how they fire up, you can't really see the paradoxing until like they're a lot older, type of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's a couple of other morphs. I think, in Korea, I was saying that they do have almost like a leucistic morph where it's proven that the babies hatch out white actually. But I think as they get older, they're almost like, I guess they like the ivory ball python or some of the other, maybe some of the retic morphs, where the back, the dorsal, there's like a bit of color, like almost like a brown patch or whatever. But they hatch out like a white color. Yeah. I think he calls it I forgot the breeder's name, but it's a Luna, I think was the morph. I don't think it was Park. I don't know if it's Park Worm that did it, but like I know he does a lot of Tokays in Korea. But there's a couple of other people now too that are doing it. And then some of the other morphs that are out there, like I'm working with really cool one, like a blue paradox. They call it blueberry. So it's basically like
I like that.
And that one is what I would consider it's an inheritable granite looking Tokay Gecko. So it does have, the babies will come out with black spots, but the signature feature of that kind of Tokay morph is the feet are black, or like a blue. It's like a paradox basically. So you have this blue gecko, and then you have the feet and the tail. The extremities are like a dark, black blue color.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
What are those with the yellow spots? I saw like a
yes,
platinum, right?
Forgot yellow spots. Platinum is, so there's two types of yellow spots. There is the platinum eye one, so we call those platinum. My buddy Josh called them platinum. He coined that, so that's a yellow spotted. So before, people were breeding, and again, that one, there's different lines too. So not all of them are compatible, and from afar they kind of all look the same because Tokay sometimes do have yellow spots. It's really, I don't know what the I guess the absolute will call it, but platinum is simple recessive, and then there's also black eye yellow spots, which my buddy Logan also proves out as he calls him. Well, I don't know if he was the one that came up with the name, but like those are the Diablos. So that's a black eye yellow spot.
That's what it was. That's what I saw. Diablo. Yes.
So they actually really cool color because depending on how they fire, they're like this. As adults, they have this kind of this lavender body color, jet black eyes, and then they have their spots can be like an orangey yellow color. When they hatch out as babies, they're like black, but with the black eyes. The key thing is it's black eyes. It's like, it's really cool. And then I think they look amazing. I mean, if anything, that is like, the black eyes kind of make the Tokay look like they're cute.
Yeah. So you said those are two different ones. So if you actually put those together, would it be like, when you put like two albino leopard geckos together of two different albinos forms? Would it be come out regular, just generic?
Regular. There'll be double heads. Okay. They will be double heads. Yeah. And that brings me to the thing about albinos. Albinos have shown up for so long, but not every albino is compatible. And people have bred, many cases I've heard like, put two albinos together, what they called albino. And then the babies come out normal. Then you just know that the two albinos are not compatible. It's the same thing, I'm going back to ball pythons because that's the last thing that I really can think about. But if you bred like a regular T- albino with a T+, like, a caramel versus with a regular albino, or even a regular albino with like a lavender or like a banana, they're all different types of albino, but they are not compatible with each other. So you end up getting double heads. That's why albinos are still very hard to get. There are established lines now. It really, the best way to get an albino line going is get an albino male, make your own heads, and breed the babies together. And then you're guaranteed.
Albino Tokays?
Yep.
Yeah.
Really? Damn. Yeah.
There's a couple of proven T positive lines. I don't know how many, if there is actually a viable like T minus. There are people with T minus animals. I have T minus animals. But
that's cool.
It's just not, you're not going to get, most of the time you're getting a whole bunch of normals. But my buddy Logan, he did it the long way. He got hets from somebody. He raised those hets up, bred them together, and then he got an albino baby out of it. That's how you know that those genetics are, you just have to line breed it so that it works out. Now you can try to get lucky, right? I'm testing it out right now. I have a pair of T positives, or what I think is T positive, like the caramel version of a Tokay. The male and female look very similar together. We got 3 eggs. So if it, I'd be, I'll let you know, right? I'll be ecstatic if it comes out like not a normal, right? But when you're hatching out Tokay babies, unfortunately, you almost have to expect that the babies will come out normal, right? And then you'd be surprised when they don't. Because same thing, like, and this happens. This is the hard part of Tokays. I have 2 pairs of the blue paradox going, or what came in as blue paradox. They both laid eggs this year. 1 pair, 2 babies hatch. Unfortunately, they look kind of normal. I mean, I'm hopefully looking. Sometimes I'm looking constantly at the picture. I'm taking pictures of their feet. I'm like zooming in. I'm just like, oh, they have black feet or whatever. But they're kind of normal looking. And then even though the parents they look different, they're morphs, and they look kind of alike, they're not the same morph. And phenotypically they look like they're the same. Versus the second pair did produce babies that are, from right out of the egg, they look different. I know that they're normal. So then those 2 are the same morphs. So it's really like, that's the hard part. The same thing with the yellow spots, as I said before. Everything that was yellow spots, people used to mix them together, and then they would get so frustrated. That's what happened. A lot of people gave up on the Tokays because like they could not really produce the morphs. The only real morph that people were really produced in any numbers was the patternless or powder blues, and the reduced pattern, the green codominant, which is like, and yeah, that was it. Those are the only 2 morphs that people were consistently proving out. But other than that, it was really hard. Like, and we're all still working on albinos. I mean, I know a lot of people that have like just a lone, I think they're all up to like, they have a male albino, what they think is a team negative, and then they haven't gone to the place where they produce babies out of it. That's really like, that's the real thing. You got to be able to produce the babies to prove that this is genetic. But there's a couple of T positive. There's at least 3 or 4 different lines of T positive, and they might all be related to each other. That would take time to develop, but like at least we know that you get one. Like my buddy Josh has, I know he has a proven T plus line, but I think he got rid of it. He sold it. Still in project with somebody else. Logan has one. I think somebody else that's on. I can't remember. I think it's Emerald Exotics. I think. He was advertising. I see one on Morph Market. He was advertising his proven T positive. And then there's also like a whole bunch of animals that kind of look. They come in, the other hard part is like Indo. They're coming up with their own terms or names for these animals too, right? So I have things that are called hypo, and then they come in as hypo, and it's just like, oh, well, is this really an albino, or is it really a hypo, or is it a T plus? So I have a bunch of animals that have like, I mean, I guess hypo would be an apt term. They have a reduced amount of black. How I usually distinguish a true albino, like a T minus albino, is you guys just look in the mouth. If there's no black in the mouth, it's a full pink mouth, then it's an albino. Because sometimes, depending on how it looks, Tokays have that, they don't naturally have a lot of black in them anyway. Like, it's a nice Tokay is really blue and red. So like sometimes an albino is kind of hard to really tell. So and the hypos will have like a dark mouth. So that's how even though the body is like a reduced amount of black and they look like a lighter shade, I look in the mouth. That's how most people distinguish. If it's like a pink mouth, then that's most likely an albino type, or what most people would feel comfortable advertising and selling and marketing as an albino. And then other than that, I would just call it a hypo. If it looks like an albino, but the mouth inside is like black and stuff like that. Nice. That's all the morphs. I mean, there's a couple of other ones.
That's a whole lot of genetic talks right there.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's still trying to work it out and trying to do like double heads, combos.
Yeah. Like I said, like my buddy, he has like like I said, I think it was a caramel albino Tokay. And he put it together with the powder blue to see what happens. So I was like, oh, we'll see what happens. Like I said, he got like 20 good pairs of Tokays right now. So he's real excited. I was like, I'm excited for you. Hopefully you pop out something that's really dope. So with the, like you said, with the like the granites and the pie calicos, if they do change, how long does it usually take before? Is it like a couple years? Like you? or have you? Has any of yours actually done that change?
I haven't had any done that change, and I have had 2 pairs of granites produce babies for me. No change. The first pair of granites, I ended up selling all the babies, so they're all with other people. So hopefully somebody would message me one day down the line. I mean, it's been 2 years, so nobody's messaged me. Oh, your baby turned. So that hasn't happened. And then I have another pair that I have set up. That I do have one baby, but he looks pretty normal. And the baby's almost like 6 months old. So, but I have imported animals that came in like a calico or pied, like the blotches of white and black and stuff like that, and gray and whatever. And then within like 3 months, they turn all white. And I've heard that the ones, sometimes when they turn all white, after a couple of months or years, they kind of go backwards, and then they develop some more color on them. So it's not like a set thing. It's like pretty. So you don't know the timelines. I mean, that is the hard part with the pieds. I always say, get a pied because you want to look at it. It's like one of those cool animals to look at. It's like you almost have to expect that you're going to get babies that are going to be normal, and then it's like a long run. But I do think that you can have seen, I think, people that have used like pies and granites in their in mixing with other things that are proven, and I think they make the babies look a little bit different. Look, I obviously do think that they must be genetic because they're caught with some kind of, they're not like so rare. I called my guy in Indo and I said I wanted a pied. He could get me a pied. It's not like impossible. Like they're out there. So they have to be. There's something that we just haven't figured it totally out. But I know that they are inheritable.
Okay, I think it's a lot for us to still figure out, man. I think that it's a species in general.
Yes.
That there's a lot to be done.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We're just starting. I mean, and then. And it's just like, you just think about like where the ball python game has gone, or a retic game, and the boas. Like, sometimes people are just looking at like the tiniest little differences in the animal, and then that becomes like this morph that can do so many wacky things. Same thing with the tokays. Like, I mean, unfortunately, it does lead to a lot of things. Like, people like, you take your chances. People will upcharge, because they're so commonly. Wholesalers lists, you'll see like different, these animals, some people are like, oh, this looks a little different. Then they're going to charge like an upcharge it a lot. I mean, you just have to be careful. And then, you have to see if you want to take the risk. It is all a gamble. There are other things Chill's trying to figure out. For me, I think my project that I'm most excited about is really like working with my super red. I know that they are co-dominant, but like, I'm trying to figure out like, are like the normal looking babies like something special or something like that? Because I noticed like, now we have, there's a term called bold stripe where, there are some tokays where the dots are connected, and then you have a bunch of them where they're almost like a little stripe. You have multiple connecting dots. So we call that bold stripe. And there's just like I have a theory that they might be related to the super reds.
Super red, okay. Who came up with that one?
I don't know, actually. So that the bold stripe, I don't know who came up with the term. That's just a term that's been floating around now, and we just characterize, an animal with striping, dots that are connected, and it creates this look that you have this, almost some straight, it looks pretty cool, and some are better than others.
I love the super reds. Those super reds are so dope, man. Like,
I know.
Like when you talk about like a really red gecko, that is like it right there. Like sometimes they could get more fired up than some of those like gargoyles that that with the like those Pennywises and Deadpools. They get really fired up. It's crazy.
And I mean, that again is a morph that's been around too, and it's a co-dominant morph. And I am also very surprised that there's not a whole bunch of them. It's been
high price tag, man. High price tag.
But it's not like even they're just not available. Like even if they were, like I mean, I
don't really know a few people that have them. Like I was like, you have them now. I know that, and then I think like Dakota has them, and the only two people I actually know that actually have them.
Yeah, like, and the one Dakota
no
got
one
was
really
the
shows
captive bred one. But like,
yeah,
I mean, I honestly, yeah, I mean, we have theories as to like the one that I have. I had to import myself. Is unrelated to the ones that was in the U.S. So like, they're pretty rare to begin with. Like that's not a morph that's common. Like even my ex, my guy in Indo, like I keep saying, get me another super red. Like, it's like I'll pay, like, but like they're not they're just not easy to find, and I just can't figure out. I don't know. I mean, I only managed to produce one baby. That's one baby super red. Last year.
Congratulations!
He's amazing. Yeah, I mean, so gotta see it works out because with other co-dominant morphs, they usually take over and they get established very easily. So I gotta see about what happens with this morph. So I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah, because there's just not a lot available. Like, as you said, been around for more than 10 years. It's not a new, so I'm just curious to see, even the people that were working with them, I should see a whole bunch of them. I just don't see them. Unless somebody's just secretly hoarding all of these animals, right? And they don't post on social media and they don't want to advertise it. But like, I don't know. I just don't.
How is the Tokay community? I mean, you got some new Cal stuff, and you know how that community could go. How is the Tokay? Do you guys seem to work together? Being you guys are a little smaller, do you help each other out? How is it?
Try to. I think try to. So in terms of like, I don't know. I mean, I try to like, let's see. There's a couple of people like I think
it seems more collaborative. From what I've seen,
collaborative. We're also like a much smaller group. So like,
so you have to be more collaborative.
Correct. It's just like we all know each other, or at least know of each other, and then
you guys should be able to,
and then there's I'm hoping like getting some more people into it, so like it just expands and gets more people. Like when I'm doing the reptile shows, people love looking at them. It's like at least something
they're just afraid.
Yes.
No, they get those.
But that's the thing. They are afraid.
That negative look that they get about Tokays. It's just like you said. You gotta treat them just like they're a fish tank. All your tropical fish in there. You don't touch them. You don't have to touch them. It's just a great animal just to look at. And then some people just can't get down with that thought. They're like, no, I have to touch it. No, you don't. You can let it be. Let it do what it wants.
Yeah, I mean, like I would love to have a tame. I do have one tame Tokay out. I must have like 100 of them, but only one of them I can really go in and touch without a glove and stuff like that. I mean, I would love to have. You can tame them because I have customers that they buy one and then they work at it every day, and then they have this cool gecko that's you pull it out. I just don't have the time with so many.
It takes a lot of work. I think I was at the October Tinley and what's her name? Oh, I can't remember her name. The girl that's from Texas.
Oh no,
it's from Texas.
Spotted, yeah. Spotted,
I think so.
She has.
Yeah.
She has.
She brought them out.
Yeah.
She let everybody hold them. Like it was just any random person. You want to hold it? Yeah, sure, cool.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, cool. So I mean, it is attainable to do it. It's just how much work you really are you going to try to put into to get it done? And not a lot of people want to put in that work. They just want it automatically.
Yeah.
So it's like with Tokays, you got to earn their trust, just like with a monitor.
100%.
Just like a breed tick, just with anything. Like anything that has a brain that's does a whole lot of thinking, you're gonna have to earn their trust. And 100%. Some people just can't wrap their minds around that.
Yeah. I mean, you get them tongue feeding. I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Get them to eating off of food from you. I think that's a good way of getting to tame. Actually, and I can't take credit. The tame one that I have, I actually bought as a tame gecko. That was one of the reasons. It was a normal Tokay. So I bought it as a tame one.
Well, and I also think a lot of people watch that Reptiliatus and see all his Tokays on how tame they are. It's like, well, he put in a whole lot of work. Before that even happened.
Yeah.
So
Like Jimmy said, he tongue feeds them, man. He became associated with food from baby.
Yeah, I've seen his videos. Zion's, yeah, he tongues feeds them, and then they're so used to.
Oh, he'll let them eat.
Then eventually they're going to come on your arm and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I was just saying, So it's cool. Biggest Tokay is.
I don't think people realize how impressive they actually are. Big male is like an impressive gecko, man.
Yeah, they're, and when they bite, oh my god, that is a bite. That is a bite.
So let me ask you this then, because you got both. You got a lychee and you got a Tokay. Which one's worse?
Tokay bite is worse.
All right,
100%. Because sometimes when
I've heard people try to argue this.
No, they bite, and some animals they won't let go. That's the problem. They clamp down, and then you try spraying water. And then the more you move, the more they just, it's like they just clamp even harder. You just, I mean, it's like not intuitive, but you just literally have to like kind of like relax and let it like what it decides to go. Lychees bite, but then they just let go.
Yeah.
And I don't know. If you get bitten on the hand, you just bleed all over the place.
Yeah. So now, from captive and wild caught, right? What are some of the bigger health concerns with them? If there is, I know they're a pretty hardy gecko, but because they don't show a lot of their illnesses until it's almost done. So what are some of the biggest health concerns?
Definitely being, I would say, working with the wild caughts. I think working with females would be the thing to keep an eye on. I know sometimes they just don't establish very well, and especially the breeding, it can be quite taxing on them. So some females, even though you can, you can nurse them back to like a healthy weight and all that stuff. But I think sometimes the damage has already been done. So like the breeding thing is going to be very taxing on some females. So I have found that that's the case. I feel like a male, other than, if they're eating and like, there's really not a huge difference in terms of, a healthy wild caught male versus a captive born male. I mean, obviously a captive, you're guaranteed to have it, free of parasites. Well, not even. It's a misconception that if it's captive bred, that it's not going to have parasites. I mean, that's the thing. It depends on,
they can eat crickets and get
parasites.
Correct,
exactly. So. Like, crickets are, it's just like, it's not like, you really have to look at the gecko and see if it's healthy. A long-term captive for me is really more or less the same as a captive bred one. Obviously, captive bred babies, I mean, obviously people, with any of one of the species, people do, there's an upcharge because, the breeder put in the work to produce these animals. But not a whole lot of different. I think, just make sure that if you're getting a wild caught Tokay, it's fine. You can definitely do well with that, that pet store animal that you find at the pet store for like, $20 or whatever. As long as it's eating, it's most likely it's going to do well. They're very tolerant of a lot of conditions. I should mention, even though they're tropical, they don't like it wet. Like if it's too wet, it actually is not that great. I realized that, like, I used to have my Tokays on automatic misting system. I took them off. Yep. They actually do better when it's like, I'd rather have it too dry than too wet, because when it's too wet, they actually they have a hard time like even sticking to the
gripping
side. Yeah, and then they stop eating and stuff like that and stuff. So if it's too humid, they actually don't do so well. I found that was okay.
It's a huge gecko hobby in general with humidity.
Yeah, it's like, it's really hard to find that right balance. But I think they're more, if it's like wet and soggy all the time, I think you're more likely to have issues than if it's a little dry a day. Like, it's a pain, but it is better. Like, I literally have a garden hose set up, and then every couple of days I just go through each case and give them a little spray, and that keeps it like enough.
And so for your females, what are you supplementing them with when they're after laying eggs? Or, not supplementing, or like, are you giving them any kind of food, or are you giving them any kind of like maybe a mouse or anything for the calcium, the bones? Or...
I have tried the pinkies. It's just, you need live pinkies in order for them to take it. and mice are very expensive here in New York. It's just like it's literally, it's quite expensive. So I don't have an access to, unless I raise my own mice, which is another, hurdle. So I have tried before, like some females, you supplement them with like an occasional pinky mouse, and some of them will take it. So especially the animals that will take worms and roaches from like a dish, some of them will take a small pinky, and then they'll take it, Because with the lychees, it's a lot easier. I do supplement my lychees occasionally with an occasional pinky. I just mix it in with their Pangea, and then they just gobble up like it was a fruit,
Nice. Yeah, because I know I fed, when I had the Tokay, I did feed her a pinky. Because actually it was supposed to go to my ex-girlfriend. She had corn snakes. So, but she already fed them. She's like, I got an extra one. You want it? And I was like, let's see if this Tokay will take it. It was little itty bitty ones. I was like, let's see. God, I felt so bad for that pinky. That thing had probably 67 concussions. Just beating it. It was literally beating it against the wall.
Yep, they beat them. They beat them. I mean, same thing with the superworm. I mean, the hornworms. It's like the juices are just flying everywhere.
Yeah, so I got sprayed in the face, so I know.
So some of them definitely go for it. Like, once they get established and like really going, they'll eat. They're very opportunistic feeders.
Oh yeah.
So definitely pinkies can definitely.
I just love the way they go after food. It's that velocity on the way, on how it's like, God damn. I was like, you really love food, or you just you think this is the last one you're gonna get? But either way, I love it. Just that whole predator instinct that they have is ridiculously dope.
Yeah, but as I said, as you said, they're pretty intelligent animals. They go hunting, they go looking for things, take care of the babies. It's kind of cool.
So let me ask you some. We're coming up close to the end. Do you have any advice for new keepers or resources they can find themselves?
Definitely check out. There's 2 Facebook groups for Tokay geckos. Lots of people that have been working with them. A lot more people that are going into the hobby right now, getting interested in them. So definitely, definitely ask around. As I said before, most of us are pretty open to answering questions, so definitely reach out. The morphs, it is a little tricky because there are a lot of mislabeled morphs on Morph Market too. So just be careful before you pay, the large amount of money or the, whatever. And I'm not saying that Tokay should be inexpensive and all that. I think even a normal, if it's a good, healthy, captive bred, like adult animal, I think they should still be not like a $20, animal type of thing. But I just think that, if you're going to the morphs, make sure you know what morph you're getting into, right? For example, a lot of people will call, they see Tokay that comes in and it has yellow spots, and they automatically just call it a platinum. It might not be a platinum, actually, unless it looks. The only way that you really can call it platinum is if you prove it that it's genetic. You're gonna get some babies out of it that look like the parents, right? Or now that we're at a point where they've been coming in for a little bit, I can tell pretty, almost like 99.9%, like this is probably going to be platinum. But just be careful, because a lot of them are not. Same thing with the patternless. Patternless animals usually go for a little bit more money, but a lot of people confuse the green co-dominant, the reduced pattern. Sometimes those reduced patterns look like they're patternless too, look like powder blues sometimes, if they're very high quality. There's some little things you have to look for to tell. So a lot of mislabeling of morphs. So that's what I would say. That's my biggest piece of advice. Make sure you know exactly, is this what you're getting into? Because you're playing the morphs. Because otherwise caring for them is not as I said, they're not a super hard. They're pretty hardy gecko. Even as I said before, wild caught ones do pretty well.
Okay, cool. And you got it?
So I got a question, kind of backtrack a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned that, they come from a pretty broad area in Asia, and it's different locale.
Yep.
For any of you guys, you bigger names, have you taken any notice to any differences in these said locales? is there anybody that really keeps track of them? Like this is this one's from Thailand.
Think of it like your lychees, right? You got
Indonesia.
and all that stuff, right?
Taking note and really running with those different lines or locales.
I don't think anybody's really keeping track of it. I do know that there was one guy that I was talking to. He's in Vietnam, so he's like a breeder in Vietnam, and then he's mentioned some differences in the Tokay geckos. Slight differences in size. The fact that most of the morphs are coming out of Indo and not out of the other countries because in all of these countries they are all catching them for the food and medicinal trade. So whether it's for pet or whatever, they're catching large numbers of Tokays. But the morphs still do tend to just show up for the most part in the Indo. And the other populations, they're much fewer and far between. So there are differences. I don't know. And then I believe, and I'm not like totally caught up on this, I believe that scientists, there was a paper published where they have separated. There is like either a separate species or a separate subspecies of Tokay. I know with the green-eyed gecko, there was definitely a paper that I read that did separate, the classical green-eyed gecko, sometimes called the green-eyed Tokay gecko because they're very similar looking, just with the green eyes and no spots. But that has been separated into different species. So I think, with such a large geographical range, look at what happened with the chondros, right? They did ultimately separate all of them into different species. It was a lot of back and forth, right? So it wouldn't surprise me that eventually this would be separated into.
Cool to hear, man. It's super interesting, man. It's like a species like this and the information that you're given and stuff like that, man. This is what will lead to a lot of interest in the hobby for Tokays, in essence, getting bigger, because it's not a species where everybody knows it all. 90% of you good guys, breeders and keepers, will not have the answers, right? Like that's more people that can find the answers or want to find the answers. That's really cool, but I think there's something there. It only makes sense naturally. If they come from such a broad range, evolution on a minor scale, they're adapting to different environments and ecosystems and things throughout these ranges. At some point, they're going to begin to be different, right?
Yep.
I mean, look at all the Colionics and look, there's just so many different examples of species like that I bet in the future there's going to be something with that.
Yeah, no doubt that it has to, as you said, like such a large geographical range. I mean, and they produce like in the wild, they definitely produce very well and you can have multiple generations very quickly. So I know that they've proven, like, with some of the anole species, that there are already differences. I was listening before, I think you had Armin and you guys were talking about different like
Puerto
the
Rican
anoles
anoles
in like Puerto Rico. Right? They've already seen differences with the population. So after over a couple of generations, it's almost like speeding up the evolution because some of these animals produce so quickly. So no doubt that there's going to be.
Cool. That's cool, man.
So, actually, I do have two more questions. One, because we never talked about it. Eggs. How long do they take to hatch?
That's another tricky thing. I've had eggs hatch in like 2 months, and then I've had some that 6 months.
Yeah. I've heard it was like 180 days. I'm like, holy shit. That is crazy.
I literally don't do anything with them. And sometimes the eggs just don't hatch. Like I have one pair that literally has they all look like great eggs. There must be like 10 eggs in the cork tube. They look great. The parents are in there. They're protecting it. But it really has been almost like 4 or 5 months. Nothing has hatched. But the eggs they don't look like they from the outside, they don't look like they're bad. It's not like they're moldy or like discolored. They're perfect white little pearls inside there, but they've been in there for a while. And then some other eggs that have just been there like for the summer, and then they're hatched already. So, and I was just looking the other day at my, those blueberries that I hatched, and I was just like, and I was looking at my own Instagram profile. I was just like, when I took the original picture when they first laid the eggs, and then I looked at the picture of them, the babies hatching. I was just like, oh, the eggs that I took pictures of a couple of months ago are not the ones that hatched. It was actually 2 later ones that they laid. So I don't know if the eggs that were there are good anymore. I don't know. I leave them in there. I mean, I don't do anything with it until. Yeah. But Yeah, I can't tell.
Damn.
So it takes a while. It's really like you don't know.
Yeah, that's what my buddy told me. He was like, "Yeah, it takes like 180 days." I was like, "That's crazy, man." Like,
but I do think that so this is where my theory maybe, or not theory, but like this is maybe a reason why the ones like the couple of times that I've artificially incubated the eggs and put them in like a container, and incubated myself. Those eggs tend to hatch around the 2 to 3 month mark. Or like almost consistently. They don't take like
that's controlled environment. Right
controlled environment, right? I think maybe that's why. Maybe they do hatch out like a little, I guess, faster. Whatever the reason, and that's why they come out a little not as strong, and whatever. It takes a while before they get as strong as the babies that hatch more like in the environment. Maybe they come out when they're ready to come out, type of thing.
Yeah.
And it, just like other like the new cow stuff, like sometimes they generally lay 2 eggs at a time, and then one egg can hatch out, and then the other one can hatch like a month later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have that plenty of times. Well, not a month later, but like usually like a couple days later, a week later, or something. The other one hatches out. But so, and you got a question before I got bust out my last one?
No, man. I mean, I got questions, but they're not anyone that anybody can answer about the species in general, man. I love it. It's not often that it happens that I talk to somebody that breeds something, Jimmy, and I'm left with more questions than I get answers. Like you sparked an interest. Like I said, it was my first gecko ever as a kid, was a Tokay, and I kind of went away from them because they were just that regular old pet shop gecko. And then just recently did I get exposed to all these crazy morphs again and everything, and it re-sparked my interest. And I've done my research and whatnot, and I got a Tokay, wound up coming in really, really bad. Florida import, terrible, didn't make it. But I love the species, and I love the gecko, and just talking to you has reignited that, man. I have a lot of questions again, more that I got to find the answers to myself. Like I want to know some of these things, how these genes are working and what's going on. And I mean, some of the things, again, that you said, how 2 lines of the same said gene don't always, you can't pair them. They're not, recessive. This and this line of recessive, this is not going to give you a visual animal, right? Like, just I got a lot of questions, man. A lot of.
Although you definitely did spark, like, I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research about, like, I'm gonna see if I could dig up some stuff about, like, locality or species specific. Like, I mean, Indo and Florida are our biggest suppliers of wild caught Tokays. But I actually don't know. Like, it's a good thing to look up to see if like there are Tokays that come out of the other countries that export. Because I know like Malaysia exports too. I actually don't know if Thailand exports reptiles, because I just have to look into it, because I believe that there's a gecko species in Thailand that's really cool looking. It's called the starry gecko.
Starry night.
Starry night. Yeah. It looks like a Tokay gecko with white spots. It's a black gecko with white spots, but the size of a Tokay gecko. Super cool, but like super hard to get. I don't know if it's because of Thailand, but I think maybe it's where they're found in Thailand. They're like found in a very remote area of Thailand, so they're not like commonly found. But like, I would be curious to see if there are like, if I can get like a Tokay from like a pair of Tokays from like a Vietnam, Thailand, and one from Malaysia versus the ones from Indonesia, because they are like, I mean, Vietnam is very, the ones from Vietnam are definitely very separate from the ones on that whole chain, that island chain, because it's so separate.
He's super interesting.
I can hear a Is that a Tokay?
I know. I was just gonna say those are Tokays calling. Thing. I don't know because I'm using my AirPods. I don't know if it cancels out.
No, I can hear it. I heard it.
My question, I guess, my closing question to you, if you don't mind, would be, being that you keep new cow stuff, say you were vending a show and a first-time gecko keeper came up to you and walked by your table and wanted to go buy a crested gecko or some other mainstream gateway gecko. What would your pitch be to someone to get a Tokay as opposed to anything else? How would you sell a Tokay?
I would say that they are definitely more intelligent. You're going to get a lot more. It's kind of like, it requires more work, but I think there's like more to it. And and I would say it's something that's a little different. I do think the colors on a Tokay you cannot get in a New Caledonian gecko. That's the bottom. No. There's no way. I mean, there's like, and again, I love, my lychees. I mean, I like my lychees that's, just big and black and no pattern and anything like that. But like to get like some of the cool colors, like that only exists. I mean, I guess with some of the cresteds, you can get like I think they have the white ones, or I don't know. I think I've seen pictures of like a leucistic or something like that. But it's like different. That being said, I will say at a reptile show these days, the majority of the people that come to a reptile are like very new, like brand new reptile keepers, and they're like, I mean, I have to say 50% or even more, they don't even know what a gecko is. So in that respect, I do, a crested gecko is probably a better, if you have a little kid and you want to hold a gecko, a crested gecko is better than a Tokay gecko, unfortunately. Oh. But I do think that a Tokay gecko makes for a great display. I think they're much more, their family structure is, if you can see it. I mean, I think we've all seen the video of like the Tokay gecko that was like, I think its partner, its mate was like wrapped in a snake, and then one of the, then the male or I don't know, the partner was just trying to attack the snake, and there's more than one of those videos where they show like the parents protecting the babies and fearlessly going after like a predator that's like, oh, you don't.
It's really dope. So my last question is, what have been your biggest failures in this hobby, and what have you learned from them?
Biggest failure is definitely trying to do too many things at once. When I first got this place, about 4 years ago, I was just like, oh, I got my own place now. I keep everything. I was just like, I was just like, oh, I can keep fish. Like I got fish tanks. I kept some pythons and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh my goodness, it's just like, and then it becomes, you realize like you really have to think about, what you can do, and being mostly a one person team, like there's only so much you can do well, so like, and focusing on that, and then that's I definitely had a lot of failures. I was trying to keep way too many species that and some of them have similar husbandry requirements, but some of them are just more sensitive than others, and then it's like that you have to learn, like you really just can't have everything. And then some things I thought were really cool to have, and I think it was just, unfortunately, I just fell for the hype. You say, oh, this is rare. Everybody wants one, so it makes you want to, and you go get it. And then, I have the space now, so I can get it. But like some, you just can't do it all. So being able to focus, and I've definitely like honed it down to like, these are the two big species that I really want, and then I joke around like, I would love to have animals, like lots of different animals for display purposes, because there are certain animals that I do love, but like right now in this, with limited space, being able to focus is really a big learning thing for me, because there are certain species that I kept that just I didn't have like a lot of success with, just because I couldn't devote the sometimes the special care that they might need.
Happens to the best of us, brother.
Yep.
Yeah. Live and you learn.
Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, Jimmy, where can everybody find you, man?
Mostly on Instagram, Ghouls-N-Geckos. It's GEKKO first, and then underscore, and then the other regular gecko. I'm on Facebook too. But yeah, Morph Market. I'm out there. Pretty easy to reach. So hit me up if you have any questions about Tokays. You have any husbandry, or you want. I get a lot of people ask me like, is this a morph? Is this a morph? I get a lot of those messages. Unfortunately, a lot of times I have to tell them, I mean, it looks like a really nice normal. And they, and sometimes it's a lot of convincing. I'm just like, and sometimes they ask so many times, is this special? Like, I have to go ask my friends. I'm just like, am I missing something? Like, a lot of people hope that they do have a morph. I have the slightest little difference. And as I said before, unless you can prove that whatever you think is there, you can get it in a baby, it's not really a morph, that's the thing. I mean, but yeah, Instagram is the one that I'm on the most. So if you just hit me up, I try to be responsive to anybody.
Cool. You vend in local shows? You vend in White Plains?
I went to White Plains, so the local New York shows. So I do White Plains and I do the Long Island shows.
Okay.
And the other ones I don't vend, but I sometimes like go. Sometimes I go to Hamburg, or like there's the Poughkeepsie show. I've been to Tinley before too. It's cool. And then those are the two. Like White Plains is the big one that I vend at.
Jimmy, it was a pleasure having you on, man.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you for coming, man.
Thank you. Yeah, love talking to you guys.
Definitely appreciate it, man.
All right, have a good night.
You too, man.
All right, take care.
Peace.